Those of you who have been paying attention will know that this is my cafe. But today it will not be full of Germans who threaten to shoot me on a regular basis, nor will it be full of the resistance who also threaten to shoot me on a regular basis. No, today I will be hosting a special event for the wonderful people of Richmond Players. Oh, you know them. They are the ones who play in Richmond. They are holding their book launch for their wonderful new book, The Richmond Players Story, in 5 acts. Oh, who is that? Ah, it is Mr. Sean Duff, the president of Richmond Players.
Oh, Monsieur Antoine, ça va bien?
I do not speak English. Do you wish a seat?
Yes, thank you very much. This project had its origins about 10 years ago. One of the members of the Currajong Comleroy Historical Society, Mr. Frank Holland, put the idea to me that we should create a historical record of Richmond Players. So the idea ruminated for just over 8 years, and then at a chance meeting with Frank and Mr. David Griffiths from the Currajong Comleroy Historical Society, the idea was rekindled, and David took the ball and ran with it, and he's really been the driving force behind this project, along with a dedicated team of hard workers who've brought this project to fruition.
Now, Sean, I have brought with me Mr. David Griffiths.
Merci René, vous êtes très gentil.
They all think I can speak English. He is the brave soul who led a small but intrepid group of Richmond players to develop the book.
The name came about because we had a couple of distinct periods. The first one being when Dallas Blake was in charge, and then the next one was when Kevin Rizzoli was in charge. So we decided to break it into 5 acts. The general layout is a year page for each of the 68 years of the history. And on that year page we list what productions were done for that year, who the committee was for the year, and a bit of other general stuff like some bios. After that there's 1 page, sometimes 2, for each of the productions within that year. We have a colour code for the names of the productions. We soon realised that we had a lot of names floating around and a lot of productions, so to keep track of who was where, we created a database of all the people in every production and every other role, offstage, onstage and committee, and that way we could see who'd been involved for what periods of time and how many productions and how many roles each person had participated in. We did some facial recognition, so that enabled us to go and find what photos we had of every person. We ended up with 11,000 photos. On my computer, the players folder is over 60 gigabytes. Now, because of space constraints, that index only includes people who appeared in 3 or more roles. If you want to have a look at a complete index, that will be available via the website. One of the finds was a table that was made by Milton Grivas, and it was presented as a door prize at the 1997 45th anniversary celebrations. Now, it was signed on the back by all those present on the evening, but the interesting thing was that when I mentioned the table to quite a few of the people whose signatures clearly appear there, they had no memory of it at all, so it must have been a really good night.
As a member of the Currajong Comleroy Historical Society and also an attendee of many of the performances of the Richmond Players, I was delighted to join the committee and do background research basically from old newspapers on some of the original members of the group, the actors, and also snippets about the plays that appeared in the newspapers. A fascinating journey, and it's just wonderful to have produced a book that records this history of a group that's brought so much joy and delight to the people of the Hawkesbury area.
For me, the most memorable part of being on this journey has been the excitement of discovery. For example, we always thought Ladies in Retirement was the first production that we held, but time and research progressed and we realised it was actually more like a 7th. And to put a figure on the amount of productions that we've actually performed over the years, some 300 odd with 1,900 people involved, it's just truly extraordinary, and I don't think any of us could have imagined such a large figure had we ever stopped to hazard a guess. We have records of some of our more recent productions that we've staged, but in many cases the only record we have of these early shows are in the pages of the book. And that's what makes it such a valuable and exciting asset as we move into the next 70 years of Richmond Players history. It's been a privilege and a delight to be a very small part of a group of people who've been able to compile something that I think is very, very special.
Richmond Players has reinvented itself time and time again over in history, and that's one of the things that we've been able to identify in this book. As culture changes and as the company changes, we're continually able to mould these productions to fit into what's happening in our community at the time. And I think that's a really wonderful thing to identify. I've loved helping to collate the book and helping with the editing and even in the repetitious tasks of going through cast lists and reformatting and things like that. We've been able to appreciate the fine details of the information people have given us, and what that's done is that's shown us the strength in the relationships that have been formed throughout the years. So thank you for allowing us to bring this to you, and we hope that it's a great source of enjoyment for you.
In the process of putting the book together, part of our plan was to interview people who'd been involved in prior productions. And in doing those interviews, I really got to understand how much of a contribution various people have made to the organisation down through the years. In those interviews, some stories emerged, and they didn't necessarily go into print, but one in particular I would like to relate to you. And it's to do with a particular production where a gentleman in the audience took quite a shine to the leading lady and attended at every performance. But this gentleman turned up and presented the leading lady with a live goose. He then followed up on the next day when the cast gathered at somebody's home for a party and made a very grand entry. He came to the venue on roller skates and skated right through the home and through the back door and into the swimming pool, wearing nothing but a Macintosh by all accounts.
And so a grand history of nearly 70 years is captured inside this substantial and impressive paperweight book. We would so love to have had the book launch with you here in person, but alas, the war on COVID has led us to making this little film. The Richmond Players story in 5 acts represents hundreds of productions and thousands of people who have given up their time and talents to bring theatre to the Hawkesbury. And on this very stage on which I am standing now, I am sure that you would like to have a sneak peek and see if anyone you know or used to know is represented in the book.